Game ain't over. The sun is shining. And it ain't over.
You wanted the best, you got the best from my home studio on Long Island, New York. Welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I'm your host, Ian Scotto. I just got back from the gym and I felt the urge to make this video, which just happens sometimes. And the reason for this was I was working out. I have an iPod, okay? I know that streaming is what everyone does nowadays. I do not stream. I have an iPod, but I usually just have it on random and I listen to so much different music and I'm just skipping around. And I was listening to For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, a song I've listened to a million times before, an album I've probably listened to dozens of times before, but listening to it, I forgot just how amazing of an album Ride the Lightning is. And probably for the first time in well over a decade, I decided to just listen to Ride the Lightning, start to finish. And it got me thinking about some things. And part of that is Trent Reznor actually recently made some news talking about how he feels music has become something people just listen to in the background. It's not a full listening experience the way that it was at the height of his band, 9 Inch Nails. You put in an album like Pretty Hate Machine or The Downward Spiral, people experience something. They're going on a ride with you. And nowadays, especially with streaming, it's like this is something we listen to while doom scrolling. There's like a million things going on, and I've always said, and I first heard this from Howard Stern, and I've taken it with me, and I agree with it as much as Howard Stern often says things I don't agree with. He's very right on this. Multitasking is bullshit. And I think the same is even true if you're listening to an album and you're just not listening intently. So although I was listening to Ride the Lightning from start to finish and really just appreciating what a masterpiece of a metal album this was, what really set them apart from all the other thrash bands at that time, it's just mind-blowing, you know? And it got me thinking about when is the last time I even heard an album from start to finish that I go, holy shit, this is a masterpiece. And I think the last one was Koi no Yokan from the Deftones. Deftones are one of my favorite bands. But that's the last one, well over 10 years ago. And I think that this is due to several things. For one, when albums were made in the 80s and 90s, and even, I guess to some extent, early 2000s, studio time, paying for a producer, all of this stuff was extremely expensive. And you were paying by the hour. People didn't have Pro Tools rigs at home, and they weren't just emailing files to one another. It was a band of guys who got together in a studio and said, time is money. We need to really put something together that's awesome. And so the pressure is on, and you don't have unlimited time to just fool around riffs at your house and email back and forth and perfect them and put a million plugins into Pro Tools. No, it was like we have a month or however long at this studio to just put our nose to the grindstone and make something that is going to blow people away. And I think that was the mindset when a band like Metallica made Ride the Lightning. And that was the mindset of bands at that time. Also, the listening experience of the audience. I remember, because I'm 38, I remember in the 90s and early 2000s going to Best Buy, going to FYE, and plopping down that $15 for the new CD, or going to Mr. Cheapo, which is still around by me. Shout out to Mr. Cheapo in Mineola, New York. But we don't really, I can remember being on my bed with my Discman, right? And I would shut the lights off and I would hit play and I would just listen to that album start to finish. And how many of us do that nowadays? Most of America, most of the world just streams. We stream music and we're like, this is a cool song and it's disposable. And I remember Martin Scorsese, for an example, said something similar with films. He was like, films were not made to be watched on a little iPhone screen during your commute. No, it's supposed to be an experience. And I could tell you as someone, not to get too deep here, but someone who did go through a really emotional time, went through depression, I realized one of the biggest faults that I experienced and that many others can relate to is that we're living in the past, we're living in the future, we're doing a million things at once, and that's why we have anxiety. That's why we have depression. And to me, music, as it was originally made, was about being in the moment and really experiencing this piece of art and not doing a million things at once, just truly appreciating the art. And I don't see as much of that anymore. So I would say my message to you is listen back to some of these albums and listen with intent and really appreciate. Ride the Lightning. I love this album, start to finish. It's a masterpiece. After you're done with this video, go listen to it. And I think, like I said, part of that is the Dave Mustaine influence because he still had some writing credits on that album. And I think this was like a young, hungry band that just wanted to make something that people were going to absolutely love. And it like tells a story. You could tell this is not something that they just pieced together over the years, which is what most albums are today. Are we ever going to get back to this? I really don't know. But the great thing is, I think we could all turn off our other devices every now and again, put that album on, whether you're into vinyl, whether you're into CDs, any of those albums that you really, really remember appreciating, and just listen start to finish. And we got to get back to that somehow as a music lover. I think that's really what it's all about. So that's my message for you guys today. Let me know what you think. After listening to it again, and maybe I need to do the same with Master of Puppets and some of the others, and Justice for All, but I really think Ride the Lightning is the ultimate Metallica album. Let me know if you would agree with that. And yeah, listen to that album. But before you do, subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Check out the Etsy store for limited edition Ian Scotto Rocks merch. This stuff came out amazing. I really put a lot of thought into putting out some high quality merch that you got to check out. And before you listen to Ride the Lightning or whatever album that you want to revisit, click right here because I did a video about rap songs that sampled Metallica, and some of them are probably going to blow you away.